Today's question is, got melanin or got Neanderthal? Are you melanin rich or are you melanin poor? And what I mean by that is this. And hold on, before I elaborate, let me just clarify. Right now, we're talking science, melanin, blackness, dark matter. So when I use the term black, this is what I'm referencing to. We're not in government class, we're not talking social, we're not talking politics or government or any of that. So we're not talking black by law or any of that definition. We're dealing with science right now. I think that needed to be said, for some, to eliminate all semantical thinkers. Okay, now, you could be black as hell, pineal gland calcified. You could be yellow, pineal gland wide open. And I shouldn't have said black. I should have said you could be jet black, pitch black, because if anything, hell would be white like snow, something like that. Real cold. I would say heaven is hot and hell is cold. But anyway, I was saying, it could be yellow, pineal gland wide open, or any color in between. See, don't be fooled by the color. Stop focusing so much on color. It's deeper than what's on the surface. You have to comprehend that. And if your pineal gland is calcified, you need to decalcify. That's where your diet plays a factor. There are programs put in place that are designed to keep your pineal gland closed. You have drugs, anything from cigarettes to alcohol to vaccines to pills and pharmaceuticals. We got school system, which is like the numb down before the dumb down. You got religion. That's something that dumbs down your pineal gland. It closes your third eye. It kills your inner thought, your insight. Because it turns you into a believer. Which belief is like the anti-knowledge or the forfeit of knowledge. Because to believe is pretty much just to take all of everything someone else is telling you. Never research, never look it up yourself, never trial and error, never test it. Just wholeheartedly believe something based upon what somebody else told you. That's what a believer is. Knowledge, you gain, you hear information, you look it up, you research it, you cross-reference it, and I ask that also. Anything that I say, do not believe me. Look it up yourself. Research it yourself. Some things I will give you reference to. Some things I will point you to a direction, where you can get the information from. But other things, you're going to have to do it yourself because we're getting in the age where everybody's getting lazy thinkers. We don't need lazy thinkers. We need active thinkers. The world is evolving very fast. It's moving fast. People is getting slower. We need to speed up. Now, what I mean as far as religion dumbing people down, it just got you looking outside yourself. It's got you believing, in make believe. To believe in make believe is an oxymoron. None of these things can be proven. And then you can look clearly in your book, in the Bible, and it'll tell you the story of Abraham is allegory. Allegory. It means character is not real. It's not a real person. So therefore, if Abraham didn't exist, that means Jesus didn't exist. That means Muhammad didn't exist. That means Jacob, Isaac, none of these people, Ishmael. Come on now. Let's get real here. It's just stories, to have you fascinated. Stories that you would tell like your kid or something like that. I mean, they all have messages and different things to them, but if you don't know the code, if you don't have the codex, if you don't, if you don't have that third eye to see or to really read between the lines, then it's useless to you. You know, especially if you're taking it literal. You know, because you're dealing with science. You know, you're dealing with metaphysics. You know, you're dealing with the stars. You know, astrology. You know, you're dealing with cosmology, different things like that. You know, and I mean, it's really getting to the point where, you know, people are taking these things literal. They don't even understand, especially black people. They don't really comprehend, you know, that this shit was introduced to you during slavery. This is introduced to you by your oppressor. See, that's the reason why a lot of black people have a problem with accepting their African history or the African roots, because Jesus is not in it. There wasn't no Jesus before slavery. Jesus was a slave ship that came to pick your asses up and bring you over here. But that didn't even happen the way that they said it happened. See, that right there, that's a story that they tell to kind of boost this superiority of you know, European pale European seniority, you know, superiority I should say, you know, which is it's fabricated and totally embellished. They didn't come over here in strong arm and take thousands, take millions of Africans on the ship and bring them over here. I mean, come on, how is that really possible? How are you going to feed them all? How the hell are you going to feed yourself? What was you going to drink? What water? You know, come on now. You'd have been dead by the time you got here. You know, now, then the whole, you know, being obedient and, you know, forgiving your enemy and all of these different things is the perfect tool to keep a good slave, You know, it's a good control mechanism. You know, if I as a person tell you to do something, like, oh, I don't got to listen to you. But if I tell you God said, if I tell you some higher force, the controller of the universe said, then the people that have been subject to the fear of this creator, of course they will bow, they will kneel, they will do what it is that they're commanded, because they don't think that it's man commanding them, they think that it's a higher force commanding them, you know, which, you know, all these different things, these concepts are man-made concepts, you know, it's really actually a con that they want you to accept, you know, but I'm gonna go back into that. I'm gonna touch deeper into that in a second, but I want to jump back into this when I was talking about the drugs. You know, they're putting drugs in the food. You know, the regular little box things that you buy, the things at the grocery store that you buy. If you buying, if you eating, if you consuming anything with artificial flavors, artificial colors, preservatives, the dyes, MSG, trans fat, sulfates, different things like that. Come on, it's carcinogens, it's toxins. This is the shit that causes cancer. You know, it's 2014. We're in the information age. There's no reason why a person shouldn't be aware of what's going on. There's no reason why you shouldn't know what a GMO product is. There's no reason why you shouldn't be aware that the food ain't what it used to be. You know, you should be aware of this. You know, if they're doing studies and studies are coming out and they're telling you that these different dyes or these different ingredients, these toxic ingredients that they're putting in the food, you know, have effects on the mind, psychological effects, whether it be hyperactivity in children, whether it causes them to act out, have behaviors, have loud outbursts, you know, whether it be the MSG, which sends a signal to your brain that makes you think that you're hungry even when you're not, so you're going to constantly keep wanting to eat. Chinese restaurants, they use this in their food. This is why it's like you never really get full off of it. You know, you constantly go back for it. It's because it's the MSG in there. And then also the high fructose corn syrup that's being used in the soy sauces and the different sauces, the General Toad chicken, orange chickens, sesame chickens, the sauces that they're using. They're not using these are artificial flavors, artificial colors. You know, that's bad for you. That, you know, fuck up your brain, you know, fuck up your kidneys, your liver, you know, your filter systems, all of that. You know, that's why detoxing is very important. You need to drink water, drink a lot of water. Spring water, filter your water, whatever. Boil your filtered water or drink spring water, you know, but definitely, you know, it's a lot of mercury, it's a lot of fluoride, a lot of different other metals and different things in the tap water. So I wouldn't suggest drinking that like that, or, you know, consuming or absorbing too much of that, you know, because that could be harmful. But it's always a way to detox and reverse the effects of these different things. That's why you have to, you know these things. And I mean, it's just as simple as Googling it, looking it up, you know. What are natural ways to detox, or natural ways to, you know, decalcify the pineal gland, or you know, natural ways to get over a cold, or heal whatever illness, you know. You got a smartphone, don't be a dummy. You know, don't sit there with a device that's smarter than you. You know, that's absurd. You know, actually idiotic. You know, who the hell would do something so silly? You know, you got a television smarter than you. So you got a smartphone, a smart TV, but you're still dumb. Right. What is that to be proud of? There's nothing to brag about. Because if you got a iPhone, Galaxy, smart, you know, da-da-da-da, phone, whatever doohickey gadget you got, and you telling me you don't know what a GMO is, you telling me you never heard of this, you never heard of that, you need to get smart. You know, if ain't nobody told you, let me be the first to tell you. It's child neglect. You know, as a parent, you're responsible for knowing what's going on in the world around you because you have lives that you're responsible for. So therefore, you know, even if you don't know, you should be checking up what's going on with these foods, what's going on with these drugs, these vaccines, what they're putting in them, the harmful effects, the side effects of them. You should know that these are things that can cause a child to act ways that they shouldn't act, or ways that are out of character, as opposed to punishing them or whooping them for these things, beating them for these things. And these are things that you're introducing them to. You're the one going to the grocery store buying the food. You're preparing the meals. So if what you're giving them is resulting in them having mental or psychological disorders or malfunctions, then you're accountable for that. See, that's the accountability part to what I was talking about in the nutrition video. You know, you have to be accountable. Don't blame your kid and say, I don't know what's wrong with them, or, oh, they ate all that damn candy. I told them not to eat that. Who gave them the candy? How do you as the parents sit there and let them do these things? So you just watch them, you know, just do something that they shouldn't be doing and blame it on them. You know, and then want to punish them for the effects of it, and you sat there and watched them doing it, watched them do it and didn't intervene. See, that's how I say the religion, another way the religion ties in. See, because when you go into your Bible story and you get into the Adam and Eve story, this is the same thing that happened. You got people that are in the garden. Oh, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want, whatever you want, but just don't bother that tree. Don't eat the fruits from that tree. Okay, so something, the serpent, whatever, comes along, entices Eve to mess with the forbidden tree, forbidden fruit, so forth and so on. Now, we warned you about the tree. Why didn't we warn about this serpent that might come and tell you to, you know, eat from this? You know, pretty much it's like you left your child in danger. You left your child in harm's way. And the results were not good. But yet you hold your child responsible for this. It's like you turn the stove on in the kitchen. You tell your child to go ahead and hand you the something, the towel, something that's on the stove, or something near the stove. But you tell them don't touch the stove. Make sure they don't touch the stove. But in the process of reaching they get too close to the flame and it burns them. You get mad at them though. You the one that sent them in there like that. Why didn't you intervene? When you seen them doing it the wrong way or getting too close or it being a possible bad outcome, why didn't you intervene? See, this is why people have no problem or unconsciously neglect their children. Because most religious people, you're being introduced to the very first story of child neglect. I mean, come on. Realistically, what type of man sends another man to fight his battles? What type of man would send his son to fight his battles or to fix his mistakes? If I created a problem or if I made a mistake or if I made an error, as a parent, should I send my child to correct this error? Should I have my child be responsible or my child have to deal with the results of my error? That's poor parenting. That's child neglect. So you got to understand, you have to comprehend. The people that comprise these stories and put these stories together, they put these stories together to keep you dumb, to keep you as a sheep. And I mean, come on, a sheep is a very dumb animal. A sheep needs a shepherd to lead them, because the sheep will wander off and get lost. But see, that's the thing. The sheep that wanders off is actually the smart sheep, because all sheep are led to be slaughtered. All shepherds eventually slaughter their sheep or lead their sheep to be slaughtered. So why would you want to be a sheep? You can graze off your own pasture. You are the pasture. You are the garden. You are the seed. The seed is in you. You know, but once again, they're using this tool to have you feeling lesser of yourself. Something to have you accepting the world around you at, the way it is, because you're saying this is all part of God's plan. No. See, this is another way that people use to escape from responsibility, from doing what they should be doing to better this world. Because really, you know, if we start with ourselves and we better ourselves, and everyone stops with themselves and betters themselves, the world will be a better place. But we have to let go of a lot of these materialistic things. We have to let go of a lot of this. We have to let go of bad or harmful technology. A lot of this technology is poisonous. Some of it can be useful, but all of the harmful technology has to go. You know, we have to use alternate, the biodiesel fuel. If we're going to use automobiles and drive automobiles, we should use biodiesel fuel. We shouldn't be using gasoline. We shouldn't be digging into the earth, for oil, stripping the blood, the oil from the earth, stripping the earth's melanin, as an energy source, when there's other ways to conduct energy, But see, when you're dealing with politics, politics is another mechanism that they use, what party do you, Democrat, Republican, so forth, so on. Those are gangs, clubs in a sense, to where, a person is emotionally attached to their political party, a person is emotionally attached to their religious, to the religious group, or whatever religion it is that they belong to, the religious sect. And people will fight over these things. A lot of wars between Muslims and Jews. A lot of the wars going over there, a lot of the wars that are going on, you're dealing with Muslim nations versus Jewish nations versus Christian nations or Catholic or what have you. But it's all nations that believe in a God or so-called God, or deal with this Bible or these holy books, and deal with these sun papers. And they only God can judge, or, judge not, you should be judged first, or, God is to be the judge, so forth and so on. So why aren't you leaving things in your God's hands, quote unquote? Why don't your God fight why are you fighting a war? Why doesn't your God step in and intervene and settle this? See, this is what I'm saying about this neglect thing, because if we're all God's children, as a parent, do you let your children sit down and fight amongst themselves? As a parent, don't you intervene? Don't you regulate that situation? Don't you think it's been going on too long? The fighting, the bickering amongst the children, and the father, the parent, doesn't step in, doesn't intervene? And then that's another thing. Father. Where's the mother? Where is the feminine aspect of this? You know, so what are you telling me that heaven consists of God, quote unquote, um Jesus, angels, all the angels are men. There are no female angels. But yet women are some of the most religious people, but there are no female angels. So if you die as a woman, when do you have to wait to the rapture for there to be female angels? Which the rapture isn't in the Bible, but what do you have to wait till you die? To Judgment Day? To the second coming, whatever you call it, to become an angel? Come on now. No female angels. And the only description that they give of a female is similar to an angel, described as being like a stork or something like that, which is like considered a filthy bird or a filthy animal. And it's talking about the stork dragging his child between the heavens and the hells. And you wonder where the story of the stork carrying the baby comes from. You know, but like I said once again, program. See, these are subconscious. You know, unconsciously people are being programmed to neglect their offspring, to be neglectful, you know, to live neglectful lifestyles. Oh, just pray over it. You don't have to take the accountability. Don't look for yourself. Don't see what's in there for yourself. Oh, this causes cancer. Well, I'm just going to leave it in God's hands. I'm going to pray over it. That's nonsense. That's why you're dying. This ain't stopping nobody from catching cancer. This ain't stopping nobody blood pressure from skyrocketing. This ain't stopping nobody blood sugar, diabetes, you know. Come on. You had Sunday service, and then after service you go and you have a big meal, and you're serving all this poison when it's soul food, comfort food. That's not comfort to the soul. That's poison. That's soul poison. Soul food should not poison your soul. It should comfort your soul. It's nothing comforting. That is not comfort food. Eating pork and all of that red meat and all of that sugar and that fat and all of those different, you know, nasty concoctions and, you know, what you call food, which is really just food-like stuff. And you consuming this stuff and you wonder why you bloated and you big and you out of shape. You know, you walk around just toxic. You're like a big toxic balloon. That's why you're big and you bloated, because you're toxic. And don't think, you know, because you're skinny, you're not toxic. Because you could be malnourished too. It's big people that's malnourished and it's little people that's malnourished. It's all about the proper nutrition and getting your nutrition right. See, but all the nutrition plays in your pineal gland being dumped down. Because if you nourish the right way, you know, your pineal gland will be open. You can open it. You can, you know, decalcify your pineal gland. You know, but you have to choose the right diet. I mean, now, come on. Don't say, oh, I can't afford to buy organic. I can't afford to go natural or to buy organic food. It's too expensive because, you know, if you stop buying them Jordans, if you stop buying them, you know, name brand, you know, purses and clothes with all these European designer labels and try to stay trendy with the latest fashions and designs, and stop worrying about putting the best on your body and putting the best in your body, then these things will be feasible. So you have to make a choice. Have your priorities in order. What's more important? A pair of sneakers, or, you know, get these raw superfoods that's going to help enhance my own quality of life. You know, because I mean, what good is all that fashion and material things if you're dead? You want to get buried with it? Oh, but then let me guess what you're going to say. The Egyptians got buried with their shit. You know, for all of you Kemetic people that, you know, don't think that it was nothing before Kemet, you know, dealing with the baby. You acting like, you know, that's just the, you know, the top. Which, I mean, come on now. You got a history, you got roots that's way deeper than Kemet. Go past that. Who's to say that what they were doing was right? Then you got to understand, comprehend what dynasty you're dealing with. Who was in power at the time? Who was doing what change due to the people that were inhabiting the land at the time? See, it's a lot more complex than people tend to make it seem. You're fascinated with the little names and the little different culture that come along with it. You know, stop that. Stop that. You know, it's really where your mind is at. Because when you're dealing with ascension and elevating on a spiritual level, you don't even connect yourself to a piece of land because you know that spiritually you're not bound by land. If you're a cosmic soul, that means you go beyond realms. You go through land, matter, water, whatever, solid, dense matter, whatever you want to call these different things. You go through. You travel. You travel through it all. You've seen it all. You just don't remember. But see, if you get your diet right, you get your mind right, you open up that pineal gland, you might be able to see these things. You might remember some of these things. You might be able to figure out what your soul's purpose is. Because what your physical ambitions are, that's not what your soul's purpose is. But you should make your soul's purpose your physical ambition. So you have to walk your destiny. So I'm not critiquing you. I'm just suggesting these things, you know, because I'm walking minds, you know. And then we will deal with this I don't want to get off track, deal with this media thing, television, entertainment, like I said, to, you know, entertainment, to, you know, contain your inner, you know, your mind, your third eye, you know, by these programs on these channels that's dealing with your frequencies. You know, your frequencies are being controlled by a program. You have to detach. You know, it's not that serious. You know, it's, you know, I had my father was older. You know, I remember, you know, I used to talk about television. You know, my father was like, you know, when I was a kid, it wasn't TVs. You know, we didn't have stoves. We had wooden stoves. You know, we didn't have microwaves. You know, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. You know, things. You know, so for a person to say, oh, they can't watch television, bullshit. Their ancestors did it. You know, people came before you did. You know, let's not be that dumbed down as a people, as a culture, that we have to, you know, stay attached to all of these material things that we saying we trying to get free. Do you really want to be free? Because it's a price for freedom. You have to make sacrifices. What sacrifices are you willing to make? Can you sacrifice your toxic lifestyle? Can you sacrifice your toxic diet? Can you stop poisoning yourself? Can you stop poisoning your children? Because you're accountable for that. You control what goes into their system. You control their environment. You control what they hear. You control their perception. You are the molder. Are you going to mold a masterpiece, or are you going to mold a disaster piece? So you have to be conscious of this. You know, use your mind. See, that's the importance of knowledge. You see, because if you don't know the ledge, you'll fall off. It's like your eyes being closed and you're walking and you don't see the cliff. That's why knowledge is important. It's important you know the ledge so you don't fall off. So you see what's ahead of you. This is being an overseer, seeing over, supervisor, supervision, super sight. So you have to see beyond the fog, the illusion. See, but I see a lot of you don't want to pierce the fog. See, a lot of you justifying your junk diets. You know, oh, well, you know, the food is toxic, the air is toxic. You know, everything around you is killing you. So what difference do it make? Why? I mean, you might as well enjoy it. Come on, you sound crazy. You know, because if you're putting the right things into your body and nourishing your body properly, you can up your defenses so you can defend yourself against these different toxins that are put out to break you down. I mean, it's like if you're boxing or if you're in a fight, if somebody's throwing punches, you don't just sit there and not put your guard up and let them punch you. You're going to block punches. So you're going to block as many punches as you can. So if you take that into the diet and you're eating and nourishing your body right, you're going to be blocking a lot more toxins and different carcinogens and different things than you would be if you were doing a junk diet. Because then what you're doing is letting your guard down and allowing yourself to be jumped or overconsumed by toxins. You're even helping. It's like you're beating yourself upside the head. You know, you're assisting in your destruction. You know, that's suicide. You know, whether fast or slow, it's suicide. It's self-induced, it's suicide. It may not be as as fast or as intense as, you know, slitting your wrist or blowing your brains out, or, you know, or ODing or something like that. But I mean, slow, gradual, steady poisoning is suicide. You're poisoning yourself slowly but gradually and surely. It's suicide, self-induced. You know, so you have to look at things for what they really are. You know, be more realistic. You know, you have to think like chess. Stop thinking like checkers. You see, because the way that the media is controlled, you know, in the way that the government is set up, you know, the government is governing your mental, you know, governing bodies, you know, the way that it's set up, they think that you're dumb. They're programming you to think that you're not as smart as you really are. You see, and this is why the different toxins are necessary to dumb down your pineal gland, because they don't want you to maximize your power, because they will lose power. You see, this is one giant power struggle. You know, this is what a parasite does. It fights to take over the host. Eventually, a parasite can kill you, and they'll move on to the next host. You want to burn that parasite off. You know, it's just really, you know, about the accountability. You know, and then a lot of people, you know, I hear they talk about, you know, learning other languages. That's cool. You want to learn an African language, that's fine. But learn how to comprehend this language here. If you're living in America, learn how to comprehend the language that's oppressed you and your ancestors, and the language that's being spoken globally to oppress the people. Learn to comprehend that, because you actually have that advantage being here, being born in this nation, you know, to have access to these different things that other people don't have access to. So you could acquire the knowledge and do the math on these different things, and see the spell for what it really is. You know, and then that takes me to movies. Hollywood. Holly tree. You're dealing with a holly tree. A holly tree was a tree that they used to use to get wood from, to make their magic wands. Sorcerers or witches, they would use that, you know, holly wood from the holly tree to make their sorcerers wands. So this is where you get like Hollywood. And you know, Hollywood, you know, they make movies. They say they make movie magic. You understand? You comprehend what I'm talking about here? You know, Hollywood, movie magic. You know, everything's dealing with spells and illusions. You know, when they talked about the Holocaust and the Nazis and so forth and so on. You know, but you have to comprehend the people that are putting out these movies, what you call Jewish people. You know, they're putting these movies out, and they're creating your perception of what you think history, or what you think facts are, or what you think happened or occurred at certain dates and times. Steven Spielberg, or I would say Steven Spielberg, is the same person that brings you Jurassic Park. Although they say dinosaurs didn't even exist in the Jurassic era, but they bring you a movie called Jurassic Park about dinosaurs. You know, if you research, you'll find out that they got the wrong era with that. But it's entertainment. It's creating an illusion. The same person that brings you E.T., same person that brought you The Color Purple, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is an interesting movie because the Indiana Jones movie, Raider of the Lost Ark, you know, it's all about going to Cairo, finding the staff of Ra, so it will guide him to the Ark of the Covenant, which when they show this depiction of this covenant, it's a box. And this box has two owls with the wings of Mayat on the top. But you're telling me this is a box dealing with the Ten Commandments and a Hebrew God. Why does this covenant of this Ark have the wings of Mayat on it? And this is a movie by Steven Spielberg, a Jewish person. Why would the Ark be depicted in that manner? Unless the Ark is really something that's dealing with Kemetic culture to begin with. And it's just another thing that's been culture jacked by the imposters. You know, we got to look at these different things, you know, when they put these different symbols and these different codes in these different movies. And the whole objective of getting the Ark of the Covenant, because they thought that it had some type of power that it was harnessing, and if they can get this power, they can control the whole world. But what happened is when they opened up this box, they were consumed with death. They were killed. They were all set to fire. They burned. They burst into flames and they burned. These were the Germans, the Germans, or the Nazis at the time, that were chasing Indiana Jones for these different relics or these different artifacts. And he was like a professor working for a European professor working for their museums of archaeology, different things like that. And yeah, so when they got it open, it destroyed them all. See, that goes to show, see, these people know, the power of melanin. This is why the melanin has to be dumbed down. The melanin has to be controlled. Why the pineal has to be calcified. Yeah, they want to calcify everybody's, of course, but you melanated rich people, they definitely want to calcify your pineal gland and keep you dumb. They want your melanin. It's like the Blade movie. They need that blood, that pure blood, to give them these super strengths, these super capabilities. And this is the same thing with this melanin. They need this melanin so they can be able to function at a higher level. They actually have places in the South where you can donate melanin. They're paying people to donate their melanin. They're doing tests on people, taking their melanin, different things like that. So we definitely need to be aware of these things. I would suggest What is Melanin? What Makes Black People Black? A book by Dr. Layla Africa. I would suggest Nutricide by Dr. Layla Africa. Just pretty much explaining to you what melanin is, how it can be destroyed, how you can rebuild it, different things like that, So I will give you that because that's a very good reference to go to. And then he actually gives you instructions to where you can do these things, get these herbs, use different things, just do these different things yourself to heal yourself. It's not, somebody trying to sell you something or, and that's my thing, Really, this is just really out of love. This is really out of concern. It's just something that's in me, something that I'm driven to do. And I just feel that I don't ask for anything. I just ask that you pay attention, take heed, don't take offense. It costs you nothing to pay attention. But definitely empower yourself. Write down these different herbal recipes, these different recipes that help you heal thyself, stay healthy, heal thyself. Your healthy self, heal thyself. You want to stay in that realm. I really don't want to come across like I'm bashing people or like I'm really trying to critique people or tell people what or what not to do. I mean, you could call it tough love, but I mean, somebody has to tell you. Because if nobody's told you thus far, you need to know. And I mean, you can't keep running around saying you want to be liberated and you want to be free, but you're holding on to the same tools that were designed to oppress you, whether it be religion, whether it be government, you being patriotic for a nation that did nothing but built itself off the suffering of others. You being suicidal, being reckless, with your diet and what you put into you, and you're taking better care of your car or taking better care of your house than your body. You're putting better gas and better oil in your vehicle than you are putting better food in your body. That is a problem. That's not, come on. That's ill logic. That's not something that you should be doing. You should care more about yourself than these material things, because when you're gone, they're still going to be here. But these material things now, you're going to take optimum care of a vehicle that you're going to only keep for 2 years. You're going to put the best oil in it, the best gas in it, get tune-ups, flush it out, filter it, all of the top stuff to keep it running properly. But you're not going to do this to your body, and you're going to have this body your whole life. Come on now, you got to use logic. You got to be smarter than these illusions that are around you. You see, because the people that are waving that wine, they think that you are stupid. They're insulting your intelligence. People will get offended by people insulting their intelligence. So get offended. Don't play a fool. Don't be stupid. Don't be a fool for somebody. You know, you really have to use your own mind. You have to use your own intuition. Use your own intellect. You know, you can't keep being a puppet. You can't keep being a pawn in this game, because the shit is going to kill you. You know, people playing with your soul. You think you got to die to lose your soul? No, you're losing your soul more and more every day. So you don't comprehend your heart. When your heart is diseased, your soul is diseased. Because your heart is your soul. It is your mind. It is your intellect. It is your spirit. So you have to be conscious of that, you know, and you want to stay healthy. You want a healthy heart. Heal thy heart. You see, because it's very important. Because if you don't take the initiative, nobody else will. Everybody else is getting paid off of your suffering. You see, because if a preacher could tell you or give you, a religion could give you everything you needed to have peace in your life, you wouldn't need this religion anymore. So that means you wouldn't go and give 10%. You wouldn't pay tithes. You wouldn't give offerings to religious groups because you would have peace. The same goes for the doctor. If a doctor told you everything you needed to know to be healthy, he would be out of a job. See, so you have to think about the intent and the motive behind these different people or behind these different institutions that have been established to keep you dumb, deaf, and blind. You know, don't get offended by what I'm saying. Get offended by the world around you. Get offended by the fact that you haven't told yourself this. Get offended by the fact that you haven't taken action. Get offended by the fact that you know what I'm telling you. You know all of these things. You know these things yourself. You researched it, you look it up, you heard about it, you know about it, but yet you still refuse to take action. Don't shelter yourself with ignorance. Stop it. Stop poisoning yourself with these chemicals. You're saying you're going natural. Going natural is way deeper than big chop in your hair or hairstyle, because we're talking about the products that you're putting on your skin, what you're brushing your teeth with, what you're putting in your body, how your hair is, what you're putting in your hair, what you're using to wash or to condition your hair. It has to be all natural, organic, or natural products. If you're not using an organic or natural makeup, you're not natural wearing makeup. If it's a chemical, what do you think the skin does? It absorbs. So when you put this on your face, this absorbs into your body. Carcinogens. Cancer. Stop killing yourself for vanity, because the only thing that will have you is looking pretty in your casket. What does that benefit? Nobody's looking forward to taking their casket picture. You know, so come on now. You know, you gotta wake up. You know, you gotta think about your actions. You gotta be aware of what you're doing. You can't just run around aimlessly, you know, just trying to, you know, leave it to somebody else to do everything for you. You know, that's why people lean on religion. That's why people lean on doctors, because they don't want to take the accountability to take their health in their own hands. They don't want to take the accountability to take their own soul in their own hands, to live their lives the right way, you know, to have the discipline, you know, that inner eye, that inner pupil, or at once pupil was also known as orphan, which that would make sense because the third eye is often orphaned by the other two. That's that closed pineal gland. So you have your two physical eyes, but your third eye is orphaned to the physical. So you have to unlock and tap into that spiritual. You have to bring that back. You know, balance. Balance is key. You know, you have to find balance in your nature. Just because your species is a species of a certain nature it doesn't mean that you don't have the will to acquire a higher nature, but you can be crippled by what's embedded in you. See, when we're dealing with DNA and we're dealing with the makeup of what makes certain people who they are, or what makes a certain species what that species is, that's another problem with the world. You try to mix too many different species together and you expect them to get along. That doesn't work like that. That doesn't work in nature. It doesn't work. Everyone has to have their own space. You don't see the ants trying to occupy where where the bees are. You don't see the hornets trying to occupy the same tree as the bees. You don't see the red ants trying to inhabit the same mound as the black ants. Everybody has their own system, their own way of life, and it's peaceful. Actually, the animals and the insects are more civilized than people. You don't see the wasps banging on the bumblebees. You don't see the damn ants and the beetles going into gang wars. Fighting over territory. Killing each other. You don't see the ants. Fighting over food, fighting over shelter, fighting over material things. Who gonna be king of the mound? It's already governed. The queen rules. The queen rules the beehive. The queen rules the ant colony. So for some reason, people are backwards. Out of nature, they seem to want to be the only species that tends to follow man, when every other species in nature seems to follow the female, and everything's more peaceful. Yeah. And they say that people say that they're civilized. These people say that they brought civilization. See, that's that Neanderthal thought wave, that Iceman inheritance, that greed, that selfishness, that wanting to take from their brother, wanting to gain at the cost of anything, wanting to take everything to be theirs, to not know how to share, to not know how to live in harmony, but to always be chaotic, to always be disruptive, to always want to have more than one needs. See, this is all the result of a frozen pineal, a calcified pineal gland. So I ask the question again, got melanin or got Neanderthal? Because I think a lot of you are confused. You think because you appear to be melanin rich that your third eye is open. But I could tell by some of the comments, I could tell by the conversations, I could tell by some of the things that people write, some of the things that people say, that their third eye is closed. Because a lot of times when people talk or they talk about things, I could tell what you haven't read. I could tell what knowledge you haven't acquired yet. I could tell where you are in your learning, and I can tell when you're being a believer that's disguising your beliefs as knowledge, because it's all obvious, and a lot of you are dependent on books too much. That's borderline believer. If you're not taking these books and picking and piecing bits and pieces from them and building, your own, ideology, or building your own, opinion, open eye on opinion, open eye on the world, all these different topics, all these different subject matter, all these different materials of literature. If you're not taking your own opinion or open eye on these things, then you're a believer. And like I said, that's the anti-knowledge. So again, really got to be accountable, for these different things. And then, when we're dealing with, it's so much power in words, that was the whole point of, the vowel shift, the play on words, the whole English language, the whole switching the way people even write, the way that they write their text. you know, as opposed to writing from right to left, having people writing from left to right. You know, changing the number systems, you know, from 0 to 9, changing them to 1 to 10, you know, all these different things to create a controlled society, a controlled environment, you know, but you have to be aware of his story and the alterations that were made in creating his story, because it is a fabricated story. Mythology might be more factual than his story, because his story doesn't make sense. The only logic in his story is ill, and that's not logic at all. You know, but like I said, you know, you have to think about these things. You have to wonder why, you know, the government is allowing these different things to be put into your food, allowing these different things to harm the citizens. But if your government is responsible for it, then I guess you wouldn't have to wonder at all. You know, I know the power to control the wealth, the greed, but I mean, if you kill off all the people, what are you gonna rule? What's the point of having the material things? What do you want to be, the richest producer, the richest person on the earth? But yet you killed off all your consumers. Now what? See, I tell you, you're dealing with a parasitic race that doesn't think about these things. You know, you're dealing with, you know, something that thrives off of the current state that the world is in. So like I said, people have to use their will, you know, to higher their nature, to want to do better. You know, don't just open your eyes, don't just be awake. Get out of bed, get up, walk around, go eat breakfast, put something on your mind, you know, put something on your brain, you know, go be a contribution to yourself and the world around you. Don't just sit back and allow, you know, everything to be destroyed, you know, and to feel that you have no power in the matter, because there's power in numbers, and knowledge is power. You know, so with the right numbers and the right knowledge, you can restore right power. You know, I really don't want to go off too far, or, you know, go too left or anything like that, you know, but like I said, I just really I felt the need to just elaborate, you know, a little more on some of the things that I spoke on, you know, and why, you know, nutrition and accountability is important, you know, why it's important to be aware of these multiple mind control programs, and why, you know, a person has to comprehend that these words being used are words that are used to captivate you, you know, and to keep the cycle going, you know. It's like a hamster wheel, you know. You gotta snap out of it, you know. I mean, it's killing you. It's killing your children. You know, as a parent, you know, come on. We gotta do better, you know, as a people. You know, we call ourselves human. Where's the humanity? You know, we have to do better. You know, we can't keep letting these people have us caught up in these ritualistic spells and keep being spellbound and, you know, stuck. You know, we got to snap out of it. You know, and we can't keep making excuses to justify staying attached. You know, you have to detach. I mean, what's the point of sticking around a burning building if you know it's burning? You must want to go over flames with it, because that's what's going to end up happening. You know, so, yeah, just, think on those things, you know. Like I said, you know, this is not to critique, this is not to bash anybody. This is done, you know, this is tough love, you know, so it's not going to come across, you know, pleasant all the time. You know, you might not like my language. Might not like your language either, you know. I choose to use vulgarity, vulgar language. It's just a language, you know, like French, Spanish, Portuguese. Latin, whatever. It's a language. It's a choice. I might not like the language that you choose to use, you know. But see, when you comprehend languages, you comprehend how to use them. When you comprehend words, you comprehend how to use them. And see, when you comprehend how to use them, you can give power, or you can take the power away from a word, because you know what it is you're dealing with. So it gives you the power to also cast the spell and to uncast the spell. So you have to be a spell breaker. You have to break the spell. Be a day breaker. Break that vampire, you know, mentality, that vampire way of thinking. You know, you gotta decalcify. You gotta wake up. You know, get some calcium, some magnesium, some zinc. You know, get you some ginkgo. You know, different things like that. You know, different brain foods. You know, different things that are help open your brain up. Like I said, use a smartphone. Look it up. You know, but yeah, definitely. You gotta start putting the right things in your body, taking care of yourself. You gotta do it for yourself. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your children. You can't keep poisoning them with this McDonald's, with this poison food, this fast food. You know, fast food should be called kill you fast food, because that's what it's doing, killing you fast. It's not real. You know, it's a lot of things out there. You know, a lot of poisons being put in these different meats and these different things. So for all of you pro red meat eaters, pro meat eaters, and different things, you got to be conscious of what it is, what type of meat that you're ingesting, and what it is that they're injecting, if anything is being injected in these meats. You know, and also with your produce, you know, you want to wash these things, clean these things, make sure these things are cleaned thoroughly. You know, you want to do that. You know, you just want to use universal precautions. You know, like I said, you know, you just got to be smarter than what you're dealing with. You know, be smarter than the world around you. Stop making excuses. You know, if I could do it, you can do it. You know, because I wasn't always aware. I wasn't always conscious of different things. I really didn't care. You know, there was times where, shit, I didn't care. You know, always knew it was something wrong. There's times when I ignored it, or, you know, chose to not pay attention to it. You know, until one day it's like, it's an elephant in the room. And I decided to pay attention to it. You know, I noticed it. You know, it's funny because I've been noticed that it was, you know, that the elephant was in the room, but I just kept walking around it, bypassing it, you know. So it's really just opening your eyes and seeing what's really there, seeing what's around you. Of course, it wasn't really an elephant in the room, but, you know, it's really just seeing the obvious that you've been ignoring for so long, you know. So we definitely want to keep an eye open, you know, and you know, just stay insightful, you know, stay insightful, you know, definitely take accountability, you know, definitely wise up. Stop letting these people play with your mind, you know, stop letting these people subject you to this stupidity, believing in make-believe, fairy tale stories, and, you know, allegorical characters and anthropomorphical characters. You know, you're taking these stories literally, and you really depend thinking somebody's going to come back and save you, or save you from something. SOS, savior of self. It's you. Save yourself.